Well, welcome to GAN TV. My name is Malik Lenzonzo, and this is another episode of Talk to Me. Today, another great show, political show. We have an important and interesting guest with me in the studio. It's Mr. Joseph. Please turn your you have probably two electronics on right now. One needs to be off, please. Okay, while Joseph is turning one of his phone or maybe a computer off, I would like to quickly remind you that today was a day that the Ugandan Diaspora took to the State Department and the White House to protest about the president of Uganda, Mr. Museveni, arrival in the United States. So that's why we have Mr. Joseph here to give us a little bit insight about what's going on. We have some pictures. We'll receive some videos and pictures that we're going to be playing to show exactly what happened today. But first of all, let me welcome Mr. Joseph Senyonjo, if I pronounce that correctly. Correct me if you will. So welcome to the show, my friend. How you been doing?
I've been doing very well, thank you. It's been a very productive day.
Absolutely. So listen, we have all the picture and the videos that of the protest today. We're going to be playing all of this during our show. First of all, can you hear me fine? Can you hear me okay?
I'm hearing you well, and I know that our viewers expect us at 7:30. Hopefully they're joining in already. Yes. I can hear you so well.
So we definitely, 2 minutes before we'll start the show, just making sure that everything is crystal clear, that you can hear me fine, and that I can receive you, fantastic. It looks like I can hear some kind of echo in the background. I don't know if one of you, double check on any.
I actually turned off my phone, so I don't know where the echo is coming from.
Okay, perfect. Listen, like I said, we only 1 minute before the beginning of this show. I'm so glad you are here. Already you can see Sister Maria here saying that, she's been watching, which is a good thing. We want people to be connected. This is an important show because we are speaking about the destiny of Africa, particularly of Uganda at this moment. So listen, the time is now. It's almost 7:30. So, I'm going to remind everybody that Ms. Joseph here is actually the New Jersey coordinator for the rally that took place today. And, this conversation is going to be taking place. He is going to explain to us why the entire community, Ugandan American and the diaspora, came down to Washington, D.C. today to protest an event that happened to be an official one. Let me also remind people that there is a summit that the White House for President in Africa to come and discuss about issues about democracy. But that didn't sit well with the Ugandan community. I believe that some president don't have the right to even come to the United States. The images that we received were you can see the frustration and the anger from the Ugandan community. So we're going to play that real quick, Mr. Joseph, and then we will come back and try to discuss about, why is that, many people in your community are so angry and frustrated.
President is in bed with North Korea, he's in bed with Russia, he's in bed with the Chinese. We are tired. And it is you sponsoring for our oppression. Now you invited him. What does that mean? Are you giving him more funds to finish us up? What do you mean by inviting a dictator Museveni here? He does not deserve to be here.
Okay, so that's the first part of this video that I received here in our studio. You can see the anger is clear. That frustration there. The people that are watching this show want to understand where this anger and frustration coming from. Can you tell us a little bit about who is Mr. Museveni, your president?
Oh, well, I don't call him my president. I call him a dictator. So Museveni is a guy who shot himself to power after a prolonged Bush war in 1986. And I didn't hold elections for 10 years. And even then, it was after international pressure. And then he introduced what he called no-party democracy, whereby parties were not supposed to organize, and it was individual merit. And after the pressure mounted, he returned parties, so to speak. But since then, he's been holding elections for the benefits of the West to say that it's democratic, but he's rigged every election. And the most recent election in 2021 was the most egregious one. He rigged it so blatantly. And because people are gotten tired of him completely. And what he did was to start abducting and killing the opposition activists, which continues to date. That election was so egregious that even the United States said the election was neither free nor fair. So this is the Museveni we're talking about.
Okay, so it's for the benefit of our viewers. Are you a member of the opposition in Uganda?
Well, I'm in the diaspora, so I'm allied with the opposition. But yes, basically, I've been pro-opposition for many, many years. So yes, I am opposition, but in the diaspora. So it's kind of technical in the sense that I'm in the diaspora.
Yeah, the reason why I say that because there's a lot of me being from Africa myself. Usually, when you're in a diaspora, like by default, people already assume that you're in the opposition. And most of those leaders in Africa, that's by default. It looks like they see us as being always opposed to whatever they're doing, unless they're doing something good. But we saw that video. That sister very angry, and I correct me if I'm wrong. That was before in front of the State Department, right?
Yes, that was in front of the State Department. Yes.
So what was the message there? Why are you in front of the State Department before you went to the White House? What was the message you wanted to pass?
Well, we wanted to call out the Biden administration on its double standards and hypocrisy as regards democracy and human rights. President Biden, when it first came in office, he said he was going to put democracy and human rights at the center of U.S. foreign policy. But not only, and then Museveni rigged the elections, and the State Department said the election was rigged. And now the Biden administration is inviting African dictators, to the summit next week, including Yoweri Museveni, one of the most notorious of them, that has committed so many atrocities in Uganda and the region, including the DRC, South Sudan, Rwanda, and other countries nearby. So we wanted to say this is double standards, and it's a shameful proposition for the administration to be doing that. Absolutely,
because I also know that there's a second element here, a second video where you yourself is talking, and this time is actually was in front of the White House. Let us listen to what you were saying. There was somebody before you, and then you took the microphone and you said exactly what you just said.
To remind us is Black lives only matter. Black lives and human rights, children's rights, and women's rights only matter on American soil here. Beyond the borders, it's a question. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are again here at the White House to call out the hypocrisy of the Biden administration in regards to democracy and human rights. As you can see behind me, we have pictures and names of this particular poster has the name of almost 1,300 people that are missing, abducted by regime. You have other pictures of regime victims that have been killed, have been tortured, and missing. 2 members of parliament have been incarcerated by the regime for over a year, and no justice is being served. And then President Biden has the temerity to invite the dictator that is murdering Ugandans and invading the Congo and plundering the Congo to come to the United States. And he talks about human rights and democracy. And the Biden administration was aware that this dictator has been rigging elections for almost 40 years. And the most recent election he rigged was in 2021, January 2021. And the Biden administration said and acknowledged that the elections were not free nor fair. But meanwhile, he invites the dictator to come here. Imagine in America, if Biden, your election had been denied you, if President Trump or Trump managed to install himself in power, despite the fact that he lost the election, what would that look like? Imagine a country that.
Well, we kind of understand the point you're trying to make here, which is a very interesting point. First of all, I want to let you explain a little bit when you said President Biden is a hypocrite, because if he stands for democracy and human rights, and if you believe the president of Uganda, the actual president of Uganda is actually a hypocrite, actually a dictator. Do that actually create some kind of confusion in the head of some people, especially Ugandans?
Oh, definitely. Again, you say you stand for human rights and democracy, but you are inviting a dictator to the summit to deal with you because in the name of interest, U.S. interest. We ask U.S. interest about what are U.S. interests. I would have thought that U.S. interests include its values and democracy and things like that. So yes, that's very confusing. We don't call him a president. We in the diaspora and a lot of the opposition don't call Museveni the president. He's the illegitimate president. Per independent analyst, Museveni lost an election to Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, which is also known as Bobby Wine. So we call that the legitimately elected president of Uganda. So Museveni is illegitimate, but he's imposed himself on us like he has been doing for over 40 years. But this one, it was very egregious. So yes, very confusing, and it's very disappointing for Ugandans.
So what kind of interest the United States will get from Museveni, knowing that this is a country that stands for democracy, human rights, and you constantly you're talking about Mr. Museveni as somebody who is not on the side of human right and democracy. So what kind of interest the U.S. will have to deal with such a person, or they just want to be polite to those so-called dictators?
Yes, that's a very interesting question. Well, they cite regional security, they cite Uganda hosting a bunch of refugees. But in both of those counts, Museveni is actually the problem. One, in terms of regional security, Museveni is an instigator of conflicts in the region. He invaded Rwanda, which precipitated a genocide, whereby the French and the UN and other entities, in fact, the US was arming the arms that were used to invade Rwanda. Some of them were funded by the U.S. So that precipitated genocide. Invaded the Congo since 1996. Is him and Kagame have invaded the Congo multiple times, and over 6 million Congolese have died because of the invasions and related conflicts, and they're supporting proxy forces. Recently, the UN Security Council asked Museveni about his support of the M23 rebels. It's not only Kagame that supports. Museveni and Kagame are like brothers. People have to remember that Kagame was in Museveni's army and invaded Rwanda from Uganda, and so the two partners in the crimes of the DRC. Museveni also invaded the South Sudan in 2013, and so the refugees that come to Uganda, which the U.S. was in for, basically a result of these conflicts in the neighboring regions. Finally, they also say that he's helping them in Somalia, AMISOM. He has troops in Iraq. All these are Museveni. He tries to creates. It makes himself a useful agent of the West. So that is why they are saying those are the interests: regional security and refugees and AMISOM and all those different issues. But what they leave out is democracy, human rights, and the cries of Ugandans for liberty and democracy. So
yeah, a question that in the video, although all the video didn't play, one of the question was you were asking the Biden administration about being ally, and you were saying clearly, do you want to be an ally of somebody who actually have a track record of being a dictator, or you want to be an ally of Ugandan? I think that was a pretty good question. Can you elaborate a little bit on it?
Oh yes, that is a good one. Yes, when these countries like the United States and Europe talk about allies, Museveni is an ally. It's as if Museveni is Uganda. Museveni is not Uganda. Ugandan people don't want Museveni. Ugandan people are tired of Museveni. It's ruining the country. So Museveni, what if Museveni dies? Museveni now is almost 80 years old officially, though it must be well into his 80s. A lot of different people think it may be well into his 80s, and he has a lot of pressure. I understand he does not sleep. So what if he dies tomorrow? What happens then? Who is going to be your ally? So we have to look at the interest of the people of Uganda and Africa. Because again, as I said, if the US is going to prevaricate on democracy and human rights, if they're going to play the game whereby they pretend to care about democracy and human rights, then they're going to lose out to China. One of the interests is that, China and Russia, in fact, part of this summit is to counter Chinese investment and influence in Africa. But US is not going to win this Chinese against the Chinese influence and investments in Africa if the Africans start thinking, that China at least is not hypocritical. China doesn't pretend to care about human rights. They care only about business. And the US in practice is doing pretty much the same thing. They care about their interests, to hell with people being killed and massacred by these dictators, as long as they serve their interests. So in that respect, US is on the wrong foot, Europe is on the wrong foot. Their allies, if they support people's aspiration for democracy and human rights, US wins hand down because everyone wants liberty. And finally, this is a great point. When you have dictators anywhere, they affect potentially, the body politics of even democracies. Because remember, President Trump in the United States, he really more or less looked up to dictators like Putin. And, you may say, well, this is a dictator in Africa, but basically by example, they value, dictators kind of emulate each other. So, wow, look what this little dictator did in Uganda. Well, I can do the same thing. They emulate each other. So they should not look at it as if just an African problem. It can actually eat the U.S. Body politics. In fact, it was, as we saw with recent last year, it could have. When Biden first came to power, it was happening here in the United States. So we have to look at these things the interest should be the interest of the world as a whole in terms of liberty, democracy, and prosperity. Thank you.
Absolutely. We I think part of your point is saying that the world is interactive, and with the way the world is working right now, we all everything affects everybody else. Let's talk about terrorism, for example. Just because it happens in Africa, it doesn't mean that it cannot happen here. And if your because of your policies in Africa, if you create an environment where there's terrorism, guess what? It's going to also affect your country, whether you like it or not. So I do understand the point that you're making. Now, going back to the point that you were making about the way people trying to counter the Chinese presence or takeover, like some expert would say, in Africa. I think the better thing to do, instead of just trying to support dictators, or people who actually are not working for the interests of their own people, I think the better thing will be just do the better job than China, because all China is doing just investing in infrastructure, helping African to get some infrastructure and to move forward. So if you think that is not something that you want to allow to happen, but guess what? Go and invest more. That's all the African people been saying. Am I wrong for saying that?
No, you're not wrong. But again, it's beyond just investing. Again, we actually, before we also went to, after the White House, we went to the Chinese embassy, and before that to the French embassies, because they're investing in this East African pipeline, which is displacing hundreds of thousands of East Africans, or will displace if it goes forward as planned. So it's also about human rights. Investment is good, but if I'm losing my land, I'm a slave to foreign capital. For instance, the Chinese come and bring their people, and basically they don't employ Ugandans. There is investment, but yeah, who is benefiting from it? Just a few cronies of the regime. So yeah, investment is one thing, but we also are very big on human rights and democracy, and that's why the U.S. wins. Yeah, bring investment, but also ensure that these investments are backed with democratic processes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Listen, it is a very, very refreshing to see more and more young African being at the center of their destiny, taking to this issue seriously, because the United States has a unique place in global business, global politics, global economics. So, with all fairness, we believe that, of course, just like you said, of course, investments is important. But we're not as stupid as to just believe that, you can just bring your money and keep mistreating our people. That's by no means, that's not what the young generation of our African leaders like yourself and others are believing in. We are conscious that, but it looks like in Africa, the African population and the people are being pushed into a corner, to the point where they have to deal with some other rogue countries, that don't respect human suffering, human rights, and we mentioned China, Russia probably is another one. You see African people now, going toward Russia, not because they think Russia is actually a panacea to this chronic exploitation and colonization, but they at a junction where there is no better option than what you do. You go and choose somebody that you think is better in terms of helping you in this situation. So this is what we're going to be doing. We have just a few minutes before the end of this show. I'm going to take a quick break just to give you a chance to reflect on everything you've been saying. And then when we come back, we're going to make some kind of a conclusion. I'll give you the time to think about what you have to say. What is the message that you want everybody? Because this show is being watched here in the United States, also in Europe, in Africa. I want you to make a plea and make it clear and a direct message to our friend and ally the United States, because regardless, above everything, you know, and I know that our best allies, the United States is one of our best allies. So we want the United States to pay attention to what you have to say. So we're gonna take a quick break, my friend. When we come back, I'm gonna give you a chance to make that quick conclusion, and so we can get out of here. Is that fair enough?
Look, leading can be tough, and leading without support, limited resources, and inexperienced team, all while managing work-life balance, is even tougher. This is an exclusive opportunity for you to take full advantage of my years of leadership experience and glean from my mentors and all the work that I've done, the learning, the trials, the error, and the growth. You're joining an ecosystem of believers, leaders, thinkers, and doers who are here to support your dreams, celebrate your wins, and encourage your success.
Absolutely. So, just keep in mind, we want Africa to succeed, to be a success story, but that is not gonna happen if we don't, be clear and work with our partners and allies. What will be the message that you can send to the world, and particularly to the United States?
This dictator Museveni is a diabolical dictator. This is a dictator who praised Hitler. I don't know if everyone has been following. Kanye West has been in hot trouble for his anti-Semitic views. Museveni said in a publication in Ugandan, I forget the actual year, that Hitler was a smart man. We should do what Hitler did here in Africa. But Hitler went a little bit far because he tried to conquer the world. This is Museveni. Basically, there was nothing. The only thing Hitler did, according to Museveni, was trying to conquer the world. So forget about the genocide against the Jews. He, in Museveni's terms, Hitler. His problem was trying to conquer the world. And two, he said that, it does not blame the colonists for colonizing Africa. And it does not blame the Europeans for enslaving Africans. Because if you're stupid, you should be taken as a slave. So now this Museveni is supposedly trying to host a Pan-African Congress in Kampala. He is apparently is funded, he's given millions of dollars to some entity here in order to host. So this is a guy who closes himself. He's a con man. Museveni is the number one con man. He presents himself he kind of presents himself what he's not. And so the U.S. has to know that this dictator is a murderer, is a genocidal. It caused the genocide in Rwanda, and it can cause the same thing in Uganda. And in fact, one of the fears in the State Department that they hear that remnants of talk of genocide, and that genocide can only be done by Museveni because it has all the guns and everything. We Ugandans are not genocidal people, and that will not happen. But they have to stop Museveni from stop him because he's illegitimately elected. He's a murderer. He's abducting people. He's continuing to abduct people up to today since the elections. So it's illegitimate, and we want him to be held accountable. We want sanctions on the regime, and if there is any humanitarian aid given, it should be given to organizations directly that are supporting the poor Ugandans. And so we don't want any funding to the dictatorship, no training to his army, and sanctions on him and cronies that are perpetuating these human rights abuses. Thank you so much.